Okay, we are ready. Everybody, round of applause for Yunice in the house.
Nice to meet you all again.
Yeah, I'm so excited to finally be able to interview you. You've been performing here. You were at our Outer Edge party. You were performing at last week's Web3 Wednesday. So I'm excited to dive into a bit more of your history. I know you share a little bit whenever you perform. But let's get started with your music background. So before Web3, you're a musician. How did you get into music, and what is a bit more of your history there?
Music, for me, was a no-brainer. I was one of those kids that was born where like, okay, music's exactly what I want to do. Singing is my thing. My dad's a songwriter himself. He plays guitar. And on my dad's side, we're a very musical family. Like, we would fight for the mic during karaoke, like that type of singer family. So, but since they were from a refugee background, that like none of them pursued music seriously. And but for me, even though I had a tiger mom, I had to like go to school, get A pluses. A- wasn't good enough, you know, but like I've always just done music since high school. And I started songwriting in high school as well, in like a rock band. And then in college, I've done DJing, production. Later on, I moved into writing commercial music as well as my own music. I've released music in Asia with a grant from the Macau government, luckily. So I've always stayed an independent artist in that sense, where I never signed to a label. I always find ways to fund my own music and work on different projects revolving music.
Okay, I'm curious now. This isn't on my list of questions, but I have to know, where did you grow up? Where did you go to high school? And where were your family refugees from?
Okay, I was born in Brooklyn. East Coast, anyone? East Coast? Yeah? I was born in Brooklyn, and I grew up in Macau, which is, I call it the Puerto Rico of China. It used to be a Portuguese colony for 400 years, so it's one of the oldest colonies in the world. But it's situated right next to Hong Kong as well. So Hong Kong has that New York vibe, finance vibe, but Macau is the casino, you know, like islands casino vibe. And then I also lived in Burma, where my parents were born. And Burma is a country next to Thailand, and with its own political struggles for the last 80 years. So my parents, they were Chinese, like they're Chinese in heritage. And so they were kind of discriminated in Burma, even though they were born and bred there. And that's why they moved to Macau in the 70s, which I'll get into later on, actually. Yeah.
Is Burma now Myanmar?
Yeah, it's now Myanmar.
Yeah, because I went to Myanmar when I was backpacking, and I loved it. And this was in 2017,
Wow.
and it was soon after they had some more issues.
Yeah, full of issues. It's still a dictatorship country, which I think renaming it to Myanmar was like a tactic to kind of distract people from the fact that it's, you know, just full of issues. But yeah, I lived in Burma for a few years, and also and then back to Brooklyn. So most of my years were spent in New York.
You're fascinating. I had no idea about that background. That's incredible. Well, it's amazing to have you here. I'm glad you found your way to LA. Okay, so then how did you stumble upon Web3 and crypto?
Well, growing up in New York, I was just doing the indie artist thing. I performed everywhere in Manhattan, Brooklyn, with different bands, different shows, and never quite found a steady stream of income. So around 2018-19, I started day trading in a little basement in Bushwick, and you know, it worked for me a little bit. And then I kept hearing Bitcoin, you know, like in the news. I remember the exact meme that I heard about Bitcoin was that like it says kids these days for Christmas, they don't want a PS4, they want a Bitcoin. I was like, what's a Bitcoin? And so I knew someone who was deep into that. And I asked him, and we talked for like 2 hours, and I still didn't really understand what he was trying to say. But I was like, well, give it legitimacy. So I bought some. That was in like January 2019, and Bitcoin was like 3,600. Invest in it, and then forgot about it. And then years later, it was like climbing, and I checked, and I was like, oh, what the heck is Bitcoin? This shit is going skyrocketing. So since then, I've been researching and getting deep into crypto. And so since 2019, I moved from day trading into trading crypto, and really haven't looked back and learned more about the history of crypto and like the fact that it's kind of anti-establishment. You know, link back to the way I grew up in Burma. That I was meditating on what to say today, and part of the message I couldn't ignore was that like growing up in Burma and a dictatorship, and like how currency could be rug pulled by the government the next day. You know, it really, you know, for those of us who didn't grow up with like the instability of currency, for deflation and like political upheaval, crypto makes complete sense. You know, where we wonder why certain cultures wear so much gold on their body is because they don't trust their government's currency. Because the next day they could get rug pulled. Like it could be toilet paper the next day. Like in Argentina, it's still ongoing. So in that sense, like my family, my heritage, my ancestors growing up in Burma and stuff, like went through a lot of that, where like they work so hard for their money, and the next day the government's like, well, no, we're changing the currency. This is all toilet paper. And so there's this culture of wearing gold on their body where like, well, you have to fight me and kill me before you can get what I earned. So in that sense, like crypto, I know it's very volatile in that, but like it come from a space of like people experiencing betrayal by their own country. So I feel like, yeah, like I grew up in that energy where I'm one of those people who could accept the concept of crypto. So back to Bushwick, trading as an artist, you know, made some gains, and then really dedicating myself to learn more about like what it is that we're trying to build with crypto, and like, yeah, I haven't looked back since. And then, well, obviously I've done music still. I didn't get into NFTs until about a year ago, because when I heard about NFT is more of the art scene, the PFPs. And my first investment in NFTs was a rug. So it was like the hype hippos.
Same. Oh my God, mine were hippos too. Not those ones, have hippos.
Another
What's with
hippo.
the hippos? God damn it.
Yeah, so that was an easy $2,000 loss. Like, what the heck just happened?
It's been that much.
Oh my gosh. So I got turned off by the NFT side of things until I learned more about like, okay, no, this is a tool, a concept. And that people are actually making music and integrating that with NFT technology. And then there was like bear market coming. So I'm like, wait, hold on. Let me see what I can do other than trading and getting back to my music. And so learning about music NFT really like reignite my passion for putting out music again.
Yeah, so was going to be my next question. How did you parlay this experience with trading and crypto into Web3 music? Did you just start attending Twitter Spaces and listening to other musicians and hearing how they were, you know, using NFTs to help sell their music?
Yeah, exactly. Twitter Space was the fuel. One of the first ones I was listening to was Tommy Danvers, I believe.
I love Tommy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to meet him in London. We both spoke on
Nice.
panels there about music and Web3.
Yeah, I met him recently in NFT NYC, and he's super sweet. And mind you, I was never on Twitter until then. And then soon after I moved to LA, that's when I really focused all my energy into music NFTs. I joined Venice Music. I joined Squad of Nights. These are membership-based NFTs with utilities where, like, once you join, 1,000 different music producers from around the world is at your fingertips. Like, you could start talking to them, collaborating with them. So that was super fun. And with someone like Illmind, who started Squad of Nights, like, he's a Grammy producer, to really mentor us and, like, keep us going. So yeah, that's one of my first NFT approaches, to join these, like, membership-based NFTs and to, like, network super fast, And so once I got to LA, I just started attending music NFT related events, meeting people. I met Cooper Turley in a Venice Music event, and he was looking for 10 artists to kind of mentor into the space, his music cohort. I didn't even know what cohort meant. I had to look it up. And then all of a sudden, everything's a cohort. I find myself in, like, all the cohorts.
Join our cohort.
Sorry?
Will you join our cohort?
Yeah.
I'm just going to make one up now.
Another cohort, Hell yeah. But yeah, like, and learning different terms in NFT, like cohort and, like, value in spaces, Twitter spaces, Discord was a whole experience in itself. But yeah, learning that networking and building community is the fastest way to, like, have a whole, group of people to support and in return support them as well, which is I learned is a huge part of the music NFT scene.
So what obstacles did you find in the traditional music industry, and how did Web3 help you navigate that?
I think traditional music has so much to do with, like, overnight fame. Like, the numbers you have to reach these days is in the millions and beyond. Like, you can be an independent artist with millions of views and still struggle to get the attention that you deserve, let alone someone with no marketing budget who hit 30,000. Sounds fabulous. Like, you're doing a great job. It's a great song. It becomes like a rich kid's game. I think the last 10 years, like, whoever can, harvest the most budget behind their marketing and promotion wins the game. So, I mean, for someone who starts in the Web3 space as a musician, when you do your jobs, like, you're aiming for 25 buyers, 100 buyers. And once you reach that goal, you've already done a great job, Like, let's say you sold 20, like, my first drop on Sound XYZ was 25 editions, and it sold out in a minute because it's 25.
Okay, round of applause. Selling out that fast, that's very impressive. Well done.
It's 25 editions, it's 0.75 ETH, so that's, 1,000-ish. But that equals to hundreds of thousands of streams on Spotify.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And to make Spotify work for you, it's really, you have to invest in Spotify. Someone broke it down to me, like, you need 30K to get, a healthy a million or a few million streams on Spotify.
And they're not paying you either for all those streams. You're barely making anything.
If the song is good and it takes off, great. Then you get a revenue from the stream. But if it's not a great song and you invested in it, you just kind of, like, gave it back to Spotify, and that's really difficult for your average, like, independent artist.
So for musicians that might be listening tonight and want to get into the Web3 music space, how do you recommend they really dive in? Like, what kind of Twitter spaces would you recommend? What platforms do you like to use? What communities do you like to attend?
I think the biggest thing I've learned within Web3 music is that you have to show up as a musician who's dedicated to Web3. So there's so many talented artists, obviously, on Spotify and all these, like, shows. They're touring, they're doing great, and they're already successful. And so when they show up to Web3, they don't have the dedication to the community. And so I think to really win the affection of Web3, it would be to really believe in the cause and dedicate yourself as someone who's building in the Web3. Who also, support your fellow artists, or fellow project builders to really invest in each other's projects. And you'll see like the reciprocation of support.
So get your questions ready. I'm going to ask one more of Yunice, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. So what projects are you working on right now, and where can people find you?
Well, I released a lot of songs on sound.xyz. I have a song minting right now called Details. It's my first alternative pop song. And I released it a few weeks ago, kind of challenging the trend of music NFTs moving into a lower price range of like 0.005. That was like a trend a week or two ago.
That's 20. That took me a second because I was like, oh yeah, 0.05. No, 0.005. Okay, yeah, that's not like 0.75 like you got. That's
per mint. Recently, there's a trend for open edition where you can mint as many as you want within 3 days, and the starting point is 0.05, which is like $10, let's just say. And the gas fee would be like $10 as well. And so that kind of takes away the value of the product itself when the gas is so high. And also, even though music NFT isn't as traded as, like a Bored Ape or whatever, it's a micro investment that people make for the artist, right? And sometimes you like to invest in the artist. Like, let's say you buy something for $50, and in a year or two it's $100, right? And your profit's like $50, which is like a lunch in LA. But it's fun, like you're supporting the artist. But if the product itself is $10 and you're making like $5 and your gas fee is $10, like it takes away from the investment value of music NFTs. And so my latest drop, I made it 0.05, I believe, like something higher where it's like 31 editions. And I think in that way, it keeps the music NFT value higher as more of a fine art piece than moving towards the direction of Spotify for, mass, devaluation of music. So that's what interests me, is to make projects that are limited editions, but also a little quirkier than your average just drop a song. Another thing about music NFT is you can play with financial creativity. So for example, my latest drop, Details, one lucky winner will be receiving the profits of my first ordinal drop, which is like a Bitcoin NFT.
Ooh, you're getting into ordinals.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, so it's kind of finding ways to be creative with your investors and your fans and your collectors, and like involving them into the blockchain itself, or like different ways to play with crypto.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your ordinals collection?
I mean, it's in the beginning phase. It's up to, this collection needs to sell out first. So, but I've always been a Bitcoin girl. Like that's where the story began. You want to see my?
Oh, she even has a tattoo on her wrist.
I got that in South by Southwest. I can't wait till my mom asks me about it.
She's not kidding. This is the biggest Bitcoin maxi I've ever met. I love it.
My mom calls it Bitcoin, like B-I-G.
Big coin?
She's like, stop buying the Bitcoin.
Hopefully it will be one day. Okay, so where can people find you on socials? What are your handles?
Yes, find me on Yunice Music, so YUNICE Music, on Twitter, Instagram, and find my music on sound.xyz/Yunice. And I'm here. Talk to me in person.
We get a round of applause for Yunice.
Thanks, guys.
Let's make this discussion interesting. Guys, who has a difficult question?
Of course.
Give it to me.
What's up, guys? So I think it's really interesting how a lot of musicians and artists will do both the Web 2 and the Web 3 thing, right? Like they'll do sound XYZ and then they'll also release the song on Spotify. Do you feel like that is the best dynamic to do both of these platforms, or are there some opportunities where maybe you want to just do a Web 3 native thing and the song just exists as an NFT?
I think a combination of it all will be very beneficial. Me personally, I'm not gonna X out the Web 2 side. Even though I haven't dropped my latest songs on Spotify yet, I've been keeping it exclusive as Web 3. But that's the beauty of music NFT. It's a bonus on top of what you're doing in Spotify and all that. It doesn't even affect it as an independent artist, because watch out, a lot of signed artists in their contract, their companies are controlling what they could do with NFTs. So that would be a good tip to look out for these contracts who are like low key trying to control what you can do on the Web3 side. But definitely a combination. I think the surprise element, the hype element of NFT is very important. So an artist could, drop an album regularly as on Spotify, on NFT, but then also like all of a sudden be like, hey, if you're a holder of my first NFT drop, all 25 of you are gonna get this very exclusive experience, whether it's like a concert or unreleased track. That's always like a good idea.
Yeah, I like the way you're approaching that. So it's almost like if you start with like the Web3 native approach, it kind of creates like a little bit of excitement, and then you could potentially do the Spotify thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, who's next? John.
Yeah, I really love that idea of what Heroin said, what you said about giving benefits to early adopters of your NFTs, and I'm wondering like how far out do you think you're going to be doing that? Like, let's say Web3 continues, well, the bear market reverses, right? Would you conceivably give maybe some perks to your early adopters, maybe 10 years from now, 20 years from now?
That's definitely the plan, God willing, that all this still exists in 10. I mean, I'm sure it will. The fun part is always kind of finding ways to give perks to the collectors, such as like even when we did the show here in Nova, I talked to Kelly, and Kelly was like, hey, what about your collectors come in as VIPs? Like, that's amazing. Like, look at this beautiful space. My collectors got to like come in as VIPs, hang out at the lounge, and just
Spotty's and Spotty Wi-Fi, who has like a huge following count and very passionate fans as well. They got VIP as well, and that's like a huge asset, I think, to being part of a community, is getting these upgrades.
Yeah, and special drops, like ordinal drops, like you're literally receiving Bitcoin, as a perk,
Because I think like one of the cool things about doing something like that, so I'm a video game collector, and one of the things that makes a game really valuable is like if there's only 25 of them, right? They go for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, right? So what will keep your early NFTs from just being MP4s or MP3s on an NFT is that sort of excitement that you continue to bring to those early collectibles, and you're creating a collectibles market around your early stuff. So anyway, it's really cool, Yunice. You're thinking ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, well, let's get creative with it,
Yeah. We need more questions, guys. Who is in the music? Oh, Ruby, I think you're in the music. Questions?
Okay, let me think.
No one is safe around here with Ega and a mic. Get ready.
Yunice, thanks for speaking, and I saw you perform actually during Outer Edge, and it was a great performance.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, I'm also a musician, singer. I haven't released any NFT collections yet, so it's been really nice to hear your process. I guess I don't have. I'm just.
Why didn't you release as NFT?
I've been exploring the NFT, the Web3 world just for like a year now. And so just trying to figure out the best way. I've been hearing things like get on Twitter Space, which I have, but I haven't really found the right spaces yet. I guess my question would be like, for someone who's a musician and looking for the spaces that are going to support you, because the thing that I hear a lot is like build a community, which is like what I'm doing by hosting my own Web3 things when I go to events and like do skill shares of what I've learned. But what are some things you would suggest for like a musician who wants to start performing at Web3 events and get in on conversations that are happening? Because the reason why I'm like about Web3 is like the reciprocity that I hear that comes for musicians. And like really the excitement about people releasing art, releasing music, and really wanting and putting a lot of value in that. And so I'm about it, right? Like I'm really excited to build in this world to see like what could happen for the entertainment industry. So yeah, I guess like what spaces you would suggest for newbies?
Specific spaces?
Yeah.
MySpace. I am doing a
Awesome.
slide into a show.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say MySpace is in
Oh,
MySpace.
yeah,
And I was like,
MySpace.
damn, is it back? That was my favorite. Bring back MySpace, please.
There's an idea. Bring MySpace back to Web3. Well, I think it doesn't matter what space. Just pop in and
Webstock for sure, right?
Webstock space.
with a 3. Webstock, they have events, music events at all the conferences, parties, showcases, great Twitter spaces every week. Brian is a friend of ours, and yeah, he's a really big advocate for the Web3 music space.
Okay.
And he's really friendly and nice, and we'll have a chat with you about it.
It's great to spy on your fellow Web3 artists too and see what they're doing and what works for them. And if they're on a space, go on their space, you know? And that way to find the fastest way, like who is in this game like the longest. But one of my favorite thing about Web3 too is also like I haven't heard no on the regs. Like it's always been like, yeah, sure, let's work together, you know? So it's just, don't be afraid to ask for what you want and just like knock on the door and say, hey, you know, this is what I'm doing. But it's also, I like to bring it back too though. Like we talk about building community, but like we as an audience also have to be realistic on what they can expect from an artist. You know, we take time to create and, you know, write the songs, build on our own creativity. And it's a lot to ask from an artist to all of a sudden be a community leader, you know, like be responsible for entertaining people on the daily on a space, or, you know, so in that sense, like we still have to keep it real and know that at the end of the day, to keep music valuable and like to the creator of music should be like the top priority in your experience.
Yeah, and it was a lot easier in lockdowns too. I think a lot of these Web3 musicians had so much time because of Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces during the lockdowns to really build a large following. Mm-hmm. So you've got these Web3 musicians who pretty much just like blew up through Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse. So I think you do have to get a little bit more creative, and it's good that you're doing these in-person, in real life events. So, but another great resource I think is, so Tommy D's space that Yunice mentioned. He has a weekly space. And then there's Emily Lazar. She's a real life rock star. She has September Morning, which is her band. And so she does spaces every Monday afternoon, I believe. So definitely follow her and check out her spaces too. And she's been here. She's spoken on panels. So she's, you know, in town, and she'll be coming by. And you're a member here, so you'll probably be able to meet her in person as well.
Thank you. Oh, what's your space? You said you were creating a space? Oh, yes. Yeah.
I'm glad you asked. I started a space called Beast 3. It's every Thursday, 4 p.m. tomorrow, basically. I love hearing stories from songwriters that are like really get to ask them like, what is this song about? What are you writing about? What's the story? What's the tea? But also give a space to people just in Web3 who are beasting, who has a project coming out, who, you know, get to know them as a person and see like what's their main passion. So yeah, tune in everyone tomorrow 4 p.m. Find me on Twitter, Yunice Music. Yeah, I think the idea behind it is that like the shilling thing, like I hate the word shilling because it's like when you're you're passionate about what you're doing. You just want to talk about it and you want people to care and you want people to listen. So like, what's wrong with that, you know? So I want to start a space where people can really dive in and show their personality and talk about what they're passionate about. Yeah.
Alrighty, thank you, ladies. Do we have more questions? Anybody upstairs? Guys, you are a little bit quiet there. Nope. Hi, I see a lot of... Okay, we got a question.
Hello, I'm Chris.
Hi.
Curious more about the business aspect of things. As musicians, I'm a musician. We register our songs with like the BMIs, ASCAP, sound exchanges, etc. For your Web3 only releases, are you still doing that so you can collect those rights, or are you not doing that just out of curiosity?
It's a matter of doing it, and I have to do it. I know. I just need. It's almost. I have a phobia of it now, where it's like, I don't want it to like flop, because I know these Spotify things, like you need to put marketing investment for it to kind of move. So I don't want it to release and it looks so sad and wilting, but like, no, definitely those songs will be registered with BMI. And I also work with sync and licensing agents. So like, I love getting my songs placed on TV and movies. So fun. As far as legally, whether these aggregators in Music 3, these streamings are happening in Web3, I don't think they're accounted for, to be honest with you. But it's like a silent agreement that we have right now, where they are streamed online, but they have a link to where you can purchase it as an NFT. And they're not related to like a BMI Music Society count. I don't think so. I would love to see that happening though. Like, I think artists deserve that for sure. Yeah.
And I just wanted to suggest a few other accounts to follow that are in the Web3 music space. Koopa Troopa, who I believe you mentioned before, is doing really great things as a leader in the space. And then you've got Latasha. Her tag is Call Me Latasha. She had a great music video that released recently. Ria Raj, it's RHEA, RAJ. She just actually posted a huge billboard that she got in Times Square in New York. So, and that was just actually not even about Web3, that was just Web2 honoring AAPI month. And there's actually, I've got a huge list because we're working in this space of Web3 music. So come find me after. There's a huge list of musicians in the space that you should follow. Like Bloody White is another one. And Miha, M-I-J-A.
I may or may not be working on a song with Bloody White. Can't confirm nor deny. He's dope.
Yeah, they just came out with a really dope track, Miha and Bloody White, and two other musicians that I hadn't heard of yet. Just came out with something. So yeah, they're really on fire right now.
Okay, next question.
Hello. I thought it was interesting you talking about getting into Bitcoin, early in your kind of acclimation to Web3 and the blockchain. So now as a working musician in the space and talking about how, your tribe, you can generate income with, a small village of people, how has this affected you as a crypto native in terms of how you're taking income, expecting taxes, with the crypto being so volatile, what you might have made 1 month versus the value of it 6 months later? Is this a real challenge now for artists to manage all of this and report? Or are you finding there to be tools out there to manage this type of asset?
I started in the bare bottom market in my first release in November of last year. So that was pretty bare bottom. So in that sense, if this is the hardest I'll go through, then, the only way is up.
I can only go up
So
from here.
then just collect the ETH right now and see what happens later. That's the cool part too. We're getting paid in ETH as artists, and whether we really realize it or not, like, versus US dollars, ETH, I personally think it's gonna go up. So My only suggestion is don't sell.
Just hold it.
Not financial advice. That's my favorite part, actually, is that it's not a taxable event. What music is doing right now? It's not a taxable event unless you sell.
There you go. So don't sell.
All right. And I think, guys, we have a time for last question. Alex, we need that question from you.
Yunice, thank you so much for doing this. It was super insightful. I have a question, which is to the point that you were making about Spotify. We've noticed over the years, music has become a race to the bottom. Like in my lifetime, I've seen CDs and then iTunes, where it was like $10 an album, to Spotify, and YouTube is even more so because it's really, really hard to even track the songs that are being played on YouTube on a day-to-day basis. It was really interesting when Web3 music came out because NFTs gave you the opportunity to package a bunch of different facets of that artist's career in one offering. And you were able to sell 25 copies of your drop for 0.75 ETH. But now what you're saying is, and what we're seeing is that a lot of music NFTs are also decreasing in value. So my question is, because NFTs are non-fungible, what are some ways that musicians can deliver as much value as possible through a music-related NFT to their fans in order to restore value and sort of circumvent this race to the bottom that we're seeing in Web 2 music or traditional music?
Well, it's all an experiment right now. I think that's the beauty of it. Like, we're all trying different things and see what works. I think an artist have to decide what sort of drop they want to do, a limited, very valuable edition versus, okay, if I'm going to do an open edition and my bottom line is, let's say 10 ETH, I will need X amount of buyers, collectors to reach that goal. Then you have to plan out, as far as marketing wise, how much you need to put behind that, how many Twitter space, how many DGen space you have to attend, and how many like real life promotional things. So yeah, I think it's, set your expectations using price models and like I wouldn't drop an open edition tomorrow with no warning, because I know to make that amount I'll have to have 10x amount of collectors to meet the same amount. So I think it's really setting intentions on each drop, and it doesn't have to be an open edition. It could be a limited edition. It could be a 101. You could even incubate a bit and then make the best music, the best product you can do, or collab with different Web3 companies. Like I would love to do some CGI stuff, some AI stuff, some videos, more videos. I think I'm bullish on videos next, like video NFT involving music or content creating. So the combination is limitless. It's really up to the artist to decide on what content they're putting on, and as well as the price model of the NFTs. And I hope that helped cover that a little bit. But I mean, again, it's all experimenting right now. Like nobody's an expert. Like nobody can tell you like, oh, I mean they could, but like we all have a fair game right now to do something crazy. I think. Yeah.
Well, we're bullish on you, Yunice. Everyone, round of applause for Yunice.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you, Yunice. Thank you, Kelly.
So thank you, Kelly.
I hope you guys learned something. I think that was cool. I would love to get to the networking part. Ladies, again, thank you so much.